we've got some news
Yeah,
today.
we've got some great news stories for you.
Yeah, and most of them are, I try to keep it on the happier side.
Right.
So anyway, the first one, this is a story that we have covered before in the past. It's, a story that's been in the news and been a heartbreak for a lot of us. A young man on the autism spectrum who caused a car accident. There's no doubt about that. He caused a car accident and injured two people pretty significantly.
Yes, one
And
injured people has ended up being paralyzed.
yes, I mean, this is nothing to sneeze at.
No, it's a very serious accident.
Yes, a very serious accident. And he was put in jail for this with a 10-year sentence. Now, the thing that has been so difficult for so many of us is that the reason why he was in jail was it wasn't, there are different things that you can convict someone of, but he got convicted of deliberately causing the accident because they said he was trying to commit suicide.
Right.
And what they were basing that on was that when the police questioned him afterwards, one of the questions they asked him was, were you trying to kill yourself? To which he responded, yes. And then they said, well, then you need to sign this piece of paper that you're guilty of this. He did, and then went to jail for 10 years. And of course, his mother has been the hugest champion of trying to get the word out, because you and I know, Nancy, that that's not the right way to ask a question of someone who's on the autism spectrum.
Exactly.
It just, even if it's somebody who's fairly high functioning and has language, this is not the way that we would ask that question. And in fact, when asked the question in a different way, he did not, when someone is asking a yes or no question, for people who are on the autism spectrum, you may or may not get to what you're really trying to get to. And when asked the question of, that was in such a way that he would have to say, I was trying to kill myself, he was like, no, that's not what I was trying to do. I'll tell you, every time we've talked about this story, Nancy, it's reminded me when my dad had a stroke. And he didn't have the ability to speak. And I went with him to a doctor's appointment, and the doctor said to him, now, Norman, how are you feeling? And my dad said, good. And he said, so you're ready to go back to work? And my dad said, yep. And he asked another question, and my dad said, yes. And he said, do you think you can handle the stress? Yes. Absolutely. All these yes questions. And he said, great. And he was filling out the paperwork to send my dad back to work. And I said, hold the phone 1 second. And my dad had, a huge loss of language with his stroke. And I said, let's ask him a different question. I said, Dad, can you explain to the doctor what you do for a living? My father was a technical director for television.
Right.
Very complex job.
Yeah.
And my dad looked, and he got this look on his face, and he said, the thing, the hoogie, and then, and it was just heartbreaking to watch that he could not express, he couldn't remember, he didn't know what he did for a living.
Right.
And the doctor was like, oh, and then he started asking different questions. Sometimes it's about the question we ask. So this young man has been sitting in jail for 2 years.
Right.
And the mom has been fighting, and finally we're seeing a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes.
Do you want to tell them the good news?
Yes. The governor of Virginia has granted him a conditional pardon. And so we want to stress that it is conditional. There were terms of this pardon that he has to abide by.
Yes, absolutely. And he's not going to get out immediately. He won't get out until the spring. But when he gets out, there are certain things that he has to abide by that are pretty stringent. And one of them is that he can no longer drive a car.
Right.
I know that they reached out to the couple that he injured, and obviously the gentleman that he injured is not able to speak, and the wife is decimated. I mean, she's absolutely decimated, and said that he's a mere shell of who he was before. I mean, my heart goes completely out to them, and
it's
I know
a very tragic story all the way around.
so tragic all the way around. And the mother of the young man who was in prison for this has said many times, how sorry she is for the family. It's no one is saying that this wasn't a horrible, horrible thing. But the wife did express, when asked by one person about this, she said, "Well, he shouldn't ever drive again."
Right.
And they did include that in the conditions, that is not able to drive, but he's also going to have to demonstrate that he is not going to do this kind of thing again. They put in provisions to do that. And should anything happen, then he will have to go right back into jail. So, a horrible story, but at least we're seeing that we're starting to get at what really needs to happen. Um, and having this young man not understand the questions, I think we just need to be fair
Right.
always. And the fact
Mhm.
remains that even, it's a horrible thing that happened. He is taking responsibility. His family is taking responsibility. But the thing he was charged with would not have been what he was charged with had he been able to fully communicate. So
Mhm.
I think that's, really, really tough story, but at least we're moving in the right direction, I think.
Hey, thanks for watching Autism Live. To subscribe, click here. And if you'd like to check out some more of our videos, click here.